Hello and welcome to the BA Sports Podcast. Today is podcast number 5, being recorded on Saturday, August 6th, 2016. I'm your host, Adam, and I have Ty with me as always. We're happy to be a part of the BA Network. Today we will be doing a quick breakdown of some tribe trades, some Olympics. With the Olympics finally getting underway, Ty is going to be talking some Team USA basketball. And also we will talk about the ghost from Chicago that LeBron is now admittedly chasing, and how he doesn't want LeBron to follow in one of his footsteps. So join us as we get started. How's it going, Ty?
Not too bad. This is our actually second time recording this. Recorded yesterday, and there was a very, very bad echo that we could not fix. After much deliberation, we decided to just go ahead and record again today.
Yeah, so we're giving it round 2 right now.
Yep, so hopefully this one turns out better, which was really disappointing because the first attempt was probably one of our best podcasts we've ever done.
Absolutely, I think so.
Out of the 5, I mean, not saying much, but still, it was pretty good. So hopefully we can bring that same energy and hopefully bring another great podcast. So let's start off with some quick hitters. One of the bigger stories this week has been Draymond Green. He accidentally sent a not safe for work picture of the area that he commonly hits his opponents in.
Draymond sent a little picture of little Draymond down there, and a porn director offered him $100,000 to star in a porno called Drayzilla, where he can pick his own co-stars. And what do you think about that, Tom?
I mean, it's quite unfortunate, the whole situation. Obviously feel bad for him. Happens to the best of us, I guess. I don't know what to say. I mean,
never happened to me.
Never me either, but it's obviously one slip of the button. I can't give him crap for it. I mean, it's obviously an embarrassing situation. He already has enough stuff going on, so.
Right. What do you think about the $100,000 offer that he received?
That's just a publicity stunt for the porn company or porn director. There's no way Draymond would ever take that seriously. That's a drop in the bucket to him.
Right. You can't blame him for trying, though.
Right, exactly.
Obviously, if he would, for whatever reason, agree to something like that, it would probably gain quite a bit of attention. But
right.
Like you said, it's probably never going to happen.
So, yeah, it's been a pretty rough summer for Draymond. Obviously, losing the championship.
Getting arrested,
now sending this out. So hopefully he can turn that around in the Olympics and bring home a gold medal, but
I guess we'll see.
Not the summer of Draymond so far.
Yeah, he's staying in the news, that's for sure.
Yep, so staying in basketball, we're going to talk about Russell Westbrook and his new contract. He signed a 3-year, $85 million to stay with Oklahoma City. How do you feel about that?
I'm happy that he did that, because being Cleveland fans, we know what it's like to lose your superstar when LeBron left for Miami. So we kind of can feel that pain that OKC fans had when Durant went to Golden State. We also never had someone like Russell Westbrook to lean on, too.
Another top 5 player. So it's great for them to keep it. It's great him showing that loyalty and throwing a little bit of shade at Durant in the media, which I like to see. It shows that fire, and I think that's going to be a must-watch game. That first game back in OKC.
Oh, absolutely.
Golden State at Oklahoma City. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how OKC fans welcome Durant back.
Right.
But, I'm happy for the fans of Oklahoma City because having Westbrook there, he's a beast. He's absolutely a stud to watch. He's a lot of fun to watch. And like I said, when LeBron left us in Cleveland, our next best player was Mo Williams, who doesn't compare to Russell Westbrook.
So something that's been being overlooked a lot is after this deal, or I guess in 2018 when Westbrook can re-up, he can sign a contract for 5 years, $204 million, which would break records. I mean,
it's insane.
Yeah, compared to the contracts this day, I mean, Mike Conley just signed one for $130 million, I think.
Right.
So it would shatter that record, and that's only a couple years away. So I think that's a big reason of why he signed this little extension. I think obviously the loyalty plays into it, but that money, that's a lot of money.
That's a whole lot of money.
So
it's deserved. I mean, with the way the cap is for the NBA, obviously Westbrook is one of the better players, and so I mean, if people are going to start getting that kind of contract, Westbrook is one of the ones that will deserve it.
All right, so that's about it for the quick hitters for the NBA. We'll talk a little bit Team USA basketball later in the podcast, but we're going to move on to a little bit college football news.
So finally getting some Ohio State in the program. We haven't mentioned them at all in our previous podcast, but finally got a little bit of Ohio State news here for you. The AP released a poll recently for the top 25 college football programs of all time. The AP has been around since 1936. The poll uses a formula that awards points for poll appearances, number one rankings and AP national title since 1936. And coming out on top is none other than our Ohio State Buckeyes.
Which is great. I mean, when I first heard this, I was a little skeptical. I was like, man, I don't see how maybe an Alabama shouldn't be number one or something like that. But then I really started looking into the history of Ohio State. I've never been a huge Ohio State fan. I obviously watch the team and root for them, but I'm not a diehard. But I started looking into some of the championships, and especially a while ago, and just some of the rich history we have. And I definitely see it now.
Right, with the Woody Hayes and all the great coaches that have came through Ohio State, a lot of the great players too, such as the Archie Griffins and all them.
Right.
Number one at Ohio State, like you said, Alabama. I'm kind of surprised that they're not number one because they have that history as well with Bear Bryant and all, and Nick Saban now too. But Ohio State on top. Number two is actually Oklahoma,
which is confusing to me. I mean, they've had a great college program, but number two all time.
Yeah,
I don't see it, but
I know. You know, in the '90s and stuff with Bob Stoops, they were the team to beat. They were the powerhouse in the '90s. Oklahoma was.
Right.
I'm not too familiar with their history. You know, I don't know a whole ton of their. You know, they don't have the Bear Bryants that I'm aware of.
Right,
you know, so for them to be number two is kind of surprising. And then coming in at number three is the Golden Domers, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, which again, recent years they haven't not been good. I mean, they really brought it back around the last couple of years.
Right.
But for a lot of the 2000s, they were just
mediocre.
Very mediocre. So, and that's when I really started getting into college football. So I never saw the history that they have. And I mean, I guess we can look at the movie Rudy and see how great they once were. But so that's another surprise. Them at number three. Number four is Alabama. This is a travesty in my opinion. Like having Alabama at number four, I think they should at least be number two.
Right, top
possibly
two
number
sure,
one over Ohio
opinion.
State. Like I hate to say it, but
I mean it probably goes to show that we are a much younger crowd and we
Right.
don't really know the history like we should. But
Right.
yeah, I'm definitely surprised Alabama comes in at number four. Like I said before with Bear Bryant, I know that they had a great history back then, but
So we're just going to round out the top seven. We got USC at number 5, and then two Big Ten teams at 6 and 7. We got Nebraska at 6, and a team up north at number 7.
Yeah, which is
thoughts on that?
It's kind of surprising because you always hear the history between the Ohio State and Michigan rivalry.
Right.
And Michigan is a very notable program. Like they're one of the most famous programs. I believe that they're the most all-time winningest program in college football, if I'm not mistaken. And for them to be number 7 is kind of strange, but I did see a tweet from Colin Cowherd saying that they do only have one national title since the 70s and rank somewhere like 49th in bowl wins.
Which is pretty bad.
Right. So, you can kind of see why they're as low on the list as what they are.
So, 3 Big Ten teams in the top 7. Pretty good for our conference.
Absolutely.
Only one SEC team, which is surprising, but then again, that's just our generation and sort of recency bias, I guess. So, moving on there, we're going to stay in football, but we're going to move up to the NFL. Some news about Trey Mason. So, the Rams haven't talked to Trey Mason in over 7 months. He hasn't been to training camp. Jeff Fisher hasn't talked to him. He was recently admitted to the hospital after behaving erratically, according to police. Mason's mother called the police, claiming that her son was behaving strangely and saying weird sentences. Police have been called to Mason's home 5 times since March, and Mason has also told police that, quote, the police are responsible for teaching al-Qaeda to fly planes and that we need to warn the White House that we're all going to lose our jobs, unquote.
Yeah, that's really strange. Obviously, you can see that his own mother is concerned. It's obviously out of character for him. It's really weird. You got to think what kind of stuff is going on in his life.
So it's obviously a mental health issue, which should be taken. We shouldn't be making jokes about this so much. It should be taken seriously. A lot of younger men in his age range, our age range, basically get some late onset schizophrenia. So maybe that could be it with the quotes he's throwing out there, the sentences.
And what do you think about maybe having the kind of impacts that he takes, just from playing a rough game of football, and kind of the shots to the head? You think that has anything to do with it?
It might, but I don't believe so. I think this is deeper than that. I think these problems would come up even if he didn't play football, but you never know.
Right.
We really don't understand the effects yet.
For all we know, he could just have sucked into the media, the crazy media bias that's out there and how they're trying to basically brainwash everybody. And maybe it's worked on him, but hopefully everything is okay with Trey Mason. Like we said, he's been admitted to the hospital, so hopefully whatever is going on with him, they can get it fixed real soon, or
Yep.
at least figure it out so that treatment can start. And,
Yep.
we wish nothing but the best for Trey Mason.
Yep. Moving on to baseball next. What do we got, Adam?
Tyler Naquin, back-to-back AL Rookie of the Month. He is the first Cleveland Indian to receive that award in back-to-back months, which is pretty surprising to me with the history that the Indians have had. I feel like history is coming up a lot lately, but
Yeah.
Tyler Naquin, it's a pretty cool award, or a pretty cool honor for Naquin to be the first player to get back-to-back Rookie of the Month awards. Obviously, you got to look at him seriously as a contender to get that AL Rookie of the Year award,
right?
Because, obviously if he's back-to-back Rookie of the Month, he is having a great year. He's been a lot of fun to watch, definitely exceeding expectations. When he was a surprise name to the roster right before the season started, and he's came out and done nothing but exceed expectations, which has been awesome.
So staying with the Tribe, we got some trades that happened recently this week. You want to go ahead and run those over real quick?
Andrew Miller, we acquired him from the New York Yankees. I'm sure everybody's probably heard about this, but we'll just break it down a little bit more for you. The Indians gave up 4 prospects for Andrew Miller, and most notably is our number 1 prospect, Clint Frazier. The big red long hair is no more now that he's a Yankee. He's got to be a clean-shaven Yankee. The Indians drafted Frazier, the first round, 5th pick in 2013. Like I said, he was the number 1 prospect for the Tribe, and he was number 27 in all of baseball, according to MLB.com. He was playing in AA Akron for most of the season. He just got called up to AAA before the trade. I don't think he actually ever played a game for the Clippers that I'm aware of. But when he was in Akron, he had a .276 batting average, which is okay. It's not that great. Hit 13 home runs, 48 RBIs, 13 stolen bases. So, he was making an impact in AA, and like I said, just went up to AAA before being traded.
But definitely a loss.
Definitely a loss.
It sucks that we don't have him in our farm system anymore. He would have definitely seemed like been a great impact player here in the future. So.
Right. A lot of people were excited to see what he could do for us, being that early pick in the first round in 2013.
Right.
He was climbing the system pretty quickly. But obviously, a big price to pay to go get Andrew Miller, him along with Justice Sheffield, who was another first-round pick in 2014 by the Indians. He was believed to be the number 6 prospect in the Indians' farm system. He's only 20 years old, was playing only at High A Lynchburg before being traded. But another guy that a lot of potential, first-round pick, like I said. So, a lot remains to be seen with him because he is so young. But, it'll be interesting to see what his career turns out to be.
And some other players that we gave up, Ben Heller and JP
Fireisen, I believe that's how you say it. I don't know. It's a pretty cool last name, though, if that's how you say it.
Some definitely lower round picks, but just some other prospects that we also gave up. They weren't doing anything too notable. Ben Heller was in AAA. He's going to join Clint Frazier in AAA. What was the Scranton Wilkes-Barre and Rail Riders?
Yeah, that's the Yankees AAA team where both Clint and Ben will be. Neither of them are going to be for the actual Yankees, but like we said, a big price to pay. Some four high potential prospects that we sent over New York's way, but we're getting a lot in return. These stats aren't completely up to date, but last when I looked, Andrew Miller 45 and a third innings pitched, 77 strikeouts in those 45 innings.
That's great.
Only 7 walks, and then a 1.39 ERA, 6.1 win-loss record.
Wow.
A really, really interesting fact to me is with his 11-1 strikeout to walk ratio, it's the 8th highest amongst relief pitchers. Not just this year, not just last year, not just the last 5 years, but for the past decade.
Wow.
So, Andrew Miller's historically a great relief pitcher.
Yeah.
Much needed left-handed arm in the back of the bullpen for the Indians, and someone that can hopefully not just get us to the postseason, but go pretty deep into the postseason.
Right. We also acquired Brandon Guyer.
Yep, we
outfielder Brandon Guyer from the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, I think that was another. It's kind of a much less notable acquisition, but I think it's going to be pretty important for us once the playoffs do come around. We give up a 7th round pick in 2015, Nathan Lukes. He was just recently promoted to high A ball.
Okay.
So he's still very, very low in the system. and Yandelier Salinas, a right-handed pitcher who was only in rookie ball. The Tribe just drafted here.
So definitely some low prospects that we gave up for someone that can definitely boost our outfield rotation, and we'll definitely bring in an extra glove and hopefully an extra bat.
Yeah, Geyer's going to be that fourth outfielder for the Indians. Almonte, who has been almost an everyday player for the Tribe since being back from his 80-game suspension from PEDs, but Almonte is not eligible for the postseason due to that suspension.
Okay.
So I think that's when Brandon Geyer is going to come into play for the Tribe. That's when we'll start to see him pick up his at-bats, and he'll provide that flexibility. Hopefully we'll have Michael Brantley back then too, but who knows? That keeps dragging on.
Right.
But Geyer's definitely a good player to have to add to our outfield rotation there.
Yep, that's it for the successful trades, but we also have a failed trade we need to talk about.
Right, and of course you're talking about Jonathan LaCroix. That's another one that I'm sure everybody's heard of by now. But Jonathan LaCroix, the all-star catcher from Milwaukee Brewers, actually vetoed a trade to come to Cleveland. The Indians were one of 8 teams that were on his no-trade clause that he made a couple years back when the Indians weren't a very good team. The Indians and Brewers worked out a deal, and all that had to happen was LaCroix accept it and waive his no-trade clause. But he said for him to do that, he wanted the Indians to rip up that 2017 player option. And the Indians said that's not going to happen.
Right.
We're giving up too much for a one-year rental.
Right.
Yeah, you're a great player, but we want you for the foreseeable future. He also said that he was told he wasn't promised the starting spot.
Which makes absolutely no sense
Right.
to me.
There's, for a couple of different reasons. For one, why would you not start an all-star catcher?
Right.
He's one of the top 5 players at his position. Of course he'd be the starter because Jan Gomes is not better than Jonathan LaCroix. And another thing, if that's really true, the Indians aren't allowed to be in contact with him because he is under contract with the Brewers. Well, at least used to be. He ended up getting traded to the Texas Rangers, who were not on the no-trade clause, so he didn't really have a say in that deal. But, yeah, hopefully we can look back at this and kind of laugh at Jonathan LaCroix while he's sitting at home and the Indians are in the World Series.
Right. So that's about it for baseball. Next we got some Olympic news with Team USA. Team USA is currently playing in their first game against China as we are currently recording this, so we are not going to be completely up to date, but I just had some thoughts I want to get out there in preparation for the rest of the Olympics and stuff. Some big things have caught my eye are how slow we've been starting on offense. It seems like going into halftime or halfway through the second quarter, we're still tied up with these teams such as China, Nigeria, Venezuela.
Teams that we should definitely be blowing away.
Teams that don't have that NBA caliber players, and we're still tied up with them at halftime or up by 5. That just seems unacceptable to me. Maybe it's just high expectations or whatever you want to call it, but definitely surprising. Some other things that have popped out are how much length we have on defense. We're switching every single pick. Any player can guard the perimeter, even John J. Jordan and Boogie Cousins getting out there, and they have the foot speed to cover some of these lesser-known point guards. But it's really been amazing. Have you been able to watch any of the
I unfortunately haven't really been able to see a whole lot of it. But yeah, when you look at the roster that Team USA has, we do have pretty versatile guys playing on that roster. So
many guys can play multiple positions, 3 or 4 positions, especially in international ball where Melo can play anywhere from small ball 5 to even a 2 with his shooting ability. And he can switch on defense. So that's pretty amazing. Next up, I want to talk about the rotations. The rotations have been pretty sporadic during these exhibition games. Not really keeping a solid rotation, just going from player to player. I think Coach K is going to definitely tighten that up once we get into the Olympics, maybe stop switching players out so much and stop.
Do you think? I know a lot of his rotations seemed like they were based off of the location that they were playing.
Right. So Jimmy Butler started in Chicago. Clay and KD started in Golden State. DeAndre, who grew up in Houston, started in Houston. It's really just playing more to the crowd, I guess, and the players they want to see.
Do you think that will have any kind of effect chemistry-wise going forward?
I don't think so. I think that's all going to get worked out in the group stage. I think we'll be good by the time it comes to the elimination round with our chemistry issues.
Could you look at it almost the other way and say that it's to help chemistry, just to try to get everybody playing
That could
together?
be it, yeah. With how many different lineups we threw out there, everyone's been playing together any combination seems like it's been on the court. I mean, there's times when KD was the 5. There's times when Melo was the 5. There's times when we had DeAndre out there. Everyone was out there together. So definitely a good thing to get all these different combinations of players.
Absolutely.
So staying in basketball, that's about it for Team USA, but we're going to stay in basketball. We got some news about Blake Griffin and Michael Jordan.
Right.
A weird combination, but Michael Jordan was quoted as saying Blake Griffin should star in Space Jam 2 instead of LeBron James. Jordan was asked this question at what appeared to be some type of basketball camp, and one of the campers asked him. His response was, I'd probably pick Blake Griffin. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of strange because growing up watching Space Jam, I loved Space Jam when I was a kid.
Right, who didn't?
And I don't know if it's just the Cleveland bias in me, but I really can't think of a better person to be in the second one other than LeBron James.
See, I'll play some devil's advocate here. I mean, Blake Griffin plays in Hollywood, has all the commercials, obviously has some great comedic timing.
Yeah.
Has probably the best acting chops in the league.
He's great in those in the zone commercials where he makes the perfect ratio of peanut butter and jelly. Yeah, those are real funny.
So I can definitely see why he should be in there because he seems almost one of the most personable players in the league.
But at the same time, you could argue LeBron James did a hell of a job in Trainwreck. He was real funny in that movie. I thought he did great. So, I mean, he's got the acting experience as well. Maybe not. I mean, LeBron's in quite a bit of commercials, too. So
Right. So this quote comes down to two things. A, Blake Griffin signed with Jordan Brand.
Okay.
Michael Jordan's obviously going to pick his players.
Right.
And that's about it. And then also, I think with LeBron sneaking up on Michael Jordan's legacy, he may not want him to be falling in his arms.
LeBron's getting a little bit too close for comfort for MJ, you're saying.
Right. So I think those are the two big reasons why MJ would say this. Obviously,
I can see it.
I think if there was a movie with LeBron signing a contract with Warner Brothers, if there is going to be a movie, I think it's obviously going to be LeBron starring in that. But so that was just an interesting little tidbit we had to talk about.
Now we're going to move on to the Cleveland Browns. We just got back from the Orange and Brown scrimmage right before we started recording this. It was a pretty good time down there. It was a pretty good turnout. I think I saw something about 43,000 people showed up.
That's a good amount.
Yeah,
for a practice.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed with how a lot of the things turned out. It was basically two-hand touch, and I was hoping for some contact. And then a lot of the key players that I was looking forward to seeing, such as the Corey Coleman, apparently he kind of tweaked a hammy, and Hugh Jackson held him out with preseason being right around the corner.
Right, but no Joe Hayden, no Joe Thomas, no Corey Coleman, no Andrew Hawkins, no Josh Gordon. Really, a lot of the top players were sitting this out, which was disappointing. But some pretty big bright spots were, I think the brightest spot was Terrell Pryor.
Absolutely.
He looked like Jerry Rice out there.
I think the first drive down the field, I think he had the only 3 catches. There's 3 completions, all 3 to Terrell Pryor, and then he looked like a receiver out there.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a project anymore. He looks like an NFL receiver.
He caught a huge fade in the end zone, in the corner of the end zone we were right by, and just watching his body positioning and the way he boxed out the cornerback, I think it was Carlos Williams, was awesome to show that technique that he's gained, and I guess just pure athleticism.
A lot of the work that he's done with Randy Moss is paying off. Like I said, he looks like a legit NFL receiver out there, and not just. Obviously, like I said, he's not going up against the Seattle Seahawks secondary out there. Right. There's a lot of injuries and a lot of. He's going up against the second team, basically secondary. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to see what he does in the preseason.
Yeah. He also caught a huge, I want to say, 80-yard burner.
Yeah.
Just absolutely burned the corner that was covering him.
Perfect pass from McCown.
Yeah, McCown threw a perfect pass right in the breadbasket. It ended practice. As soon as he caught that, they blew the whistles. Game over.
Yeah, it was good to see Terrell Pryor out there performing in Ohio Stadium again.
Yep, and he threw up the OHIO at the end after he cut the last touchdown.
Another thing that was cool, quick note, once everything was done, Terrell Pryor signed his gloves and his cleats, took him off his feet,
and was throwing him in the crowd. Yeah, that was pretty cool. One of our friends, Brandon, who you'll hear on a upcoming podcast, was probably, I want to say, 5 inches from catching one of the cleats. It was right in his hands, and he couldn't pull it in, which was pretty disappointing for our group of friends, but,
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Another wrinkle that they threw out there with Terrell Pryor was they threw him on a wide receiver reverse, but then they ended up throwing it with him.
Right, and it seemed to be a pretty good pass.
Great pass, but Marlon Moore kind of botched it and
Right.
fumbled it and dropped it. So
I think it's exciting to see that Hugh Jackson obviously wants to. I don't know if it was just him being back in Ohio Stadium, being back in the shoe. Hugh Jackson wanted to give him a show, or if that's really how Hugh Jackson views Terrell Pryor as a weapon out there.
And the crowd loved it. The crowd absolutely loved it.
Absolutely.
Another big bright spot was RG3. He looked amazing.
Awesome.
Looked amazing. Hit every throw. Ran. Dodged pressure in the pocket.
He looked very comfortable out there. I think we saw he was unofficially 12 of 19 passing. I have no idea how many yards, but 2 touchdowns. McCown did throw 1 pick, but RG3 didn't throw any. Like I said, he looked real comfortable out there. He was going through his progressions. He was making reads, and he looked like he was been in this offense for years.
Yeah, RG3 looked amazing. Definitely very promising. Very, very promising.
Again, though, we have to make note of who was and wasn't on the defense.
Right.
So, I mean,
definitely a second-string defense. So he's not going up against first-stringers or the Denver Broncos or anything. He's going up against the second and third-string Cleveland Browns. So
right, but
definitely gonna look good.
It's something to look forward to going into preseason.
Right.
Something to watch for sure.
Any other standouts for you?
Not real big standouts. Like I said, it was unfortunately kind of more of a. I guess I just had higher expectations.
Yeah.
I wanted contact. I wanted to see the defense tackle because tackling was a big issue for the Browns defense last year. So that's something I wanted to watch, and obviously with it being two-hand tap, couldn't watch that.
So one of the standouts in a bad way was Justin Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
Looked absolutely terrible. I mean, he was getting burned by
guys
8th, 9th, 10th string receivers on our team. He was getting burned by and getting beat. Looked absolutely terrible. In all honesty, I don't see how he makes this team.
I think we said in a previous podcast, I think we left him off our preseason roster projection.
Looked terrible. So those were the big points, the highs and the lows. Highs being Terrell Pryor and RG3, lows being Justin Gilbert.
Yep.
Some other stuff about the Browns is Josh McCown has been mentioned in some trade rumors.
Right, yeah, Dallas looking for their backup quarterback now that Kellen Moore went out with a broken left ankle, I believe it is. So Dallas has been rumored to be contacting the Browns trying to get Josh McCown, but the Browns what the Browns want in return is reportedly too high. They're asking for at least a 4th-round pick, and the Cowboys are saying that's too much. But to me, as a Browns fan, I think that's perfect because what McCown brings to our locker room, not necessarily what he brings on the field, but he's that father figure type player in the locker room. He's got that experience. He's got, as Hugh Jackson said, he's got a lot of skins on the wall.
Right.
So, getting rid of him would hurt our chemistry. I think.
Yeah.
So having
definitely that veteran leadership would definitely be missed. So that's about it for the Browns. I mean, hopefully gonna be seeing much more with the preseason coming up.
Yep.
But so that's about it we have this week. So me and Adam came up with this idea for a new segment. It's more of a question and answer segment. So I'm going to be asking Adam questions this week. He may ask me some in the future. We may ask Eric some in future weeks. We may ask Brandon, who you'll hear on another podcast some other week. You may hear future guests whenever they come on.
And speaking of that, we are looking for guests.
Yes.
If you're interested in coming on the show, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, or just get a hold of us somehow, some way. We'd love to have some guests on here. It'd be a lot of fun. Right.
So it's a Q&A segment, so I'm going to answer, I think I got 5 questions for you.
All right.
First question, we'll go ahead and jump right in. In your opinion, who's the greatest NFL player ever?
Ever? That's easy for me. You got to go with Mr. Jim Brown.
Even though you only played 9 years and kind of left early, you don't give that to Walter Payton or
no, because what he accomplished in those 9 years, I think, pretty much still goes unmatched.
Yeah.
He's still up there in the top of most record books. The running backs that have been playing 13, 14 years, and he's there at 9 years, and he's still hanging in there with his records.
Yeah.
You see the videos of him just absolutely running through people and over people and just dragging defenders across the field. Jim Brown is absolutely, if I could go back and time travel backwards to watch athletes, Jim Brown is definitely number one or two.
He's definitely up there with like the Wilt Chamberlains and just these athletic freaks that we hear about, but we don't really have much video to watch like we do these days.
Right.
So
no
Jim
YouTube
Brown.
Back then.
Yeah, right. So Jim Brown. All right, question number 2. You ready?
Yeah.
Favorite Cleveland sports figure of the past 10 years. So back to 2006, 2007, not named LeBron James.
Not named LeBron, that makes it a lot tougher.
Right.
Because LeBron is clearly the easy answer there. I love LeBron
Brought a
James.
championship to Cleveland.
Right. Going back at least 10 years, I got to think about this a little bit. Because if it was more than 10 years, I have an easy answer, and that's Omar Vizquel.
Okay.
But he hasn't played with us for a while.
Right.
So in the past 10 years,
I mean, you got the Braylon Edwards, you got the Josh Cribbs, you got Kellen Winslow. We brought Kellen Winslow up a little bit today during the Browns scrimmage. We got him in there. You got Kyrie, you got Joe Hayden, you got Joe Thomas.
And the three Browns players you mentioned, three of the Browns players you mentioned are who I'm thinking. I'm thinking
that
Joe Thomas.
Braylon Kellen and
No, they are.
No.
I have noticed that they're nowhere near it. I'm thinking Joe Thomas. I love Joe Thomas, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But he's an offensive lineman.
Yeah, not exciting.
Yeah, he doesn't get my blood flowing when I see him. You know.
Plus, you didn't sign our signatures today, so I'm a little upset about that.
Like I said, I respect the hell out of Joe Thomas, but he's not the answer. So it comes down to between Josh Cribbs and Joe Hayden. Both of them, big people in the community.
Right.
They both have really adopted Cleveland as their new home.
Right.
And that's one thing
which I really like, yeah.
Yeah, I respect that. But
you got to pick one. Who you going with?
I'm going with Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden?
Yeah, I just
Strong
love the
choice.
swagger he has. And like I said, he goes to the Cavs games. He's wearing the Varejao wigs. He's in full Cavs uniform, sitting on the baseline. I love Joe Hayden.
All right. Solid answer.
Kyrie Irving and Frankie Lindor are quickly climbing that list.
Okay. All right. Question number 3. What's your most unpopular opinion around sports?
All right. This one, a lot of people kind of look at me sideways when I try to explain it.
Okay.
I have this theory that, get ready for this.
All right. I'm listening.
It's better to be a Browns fan than a Buckeye fan.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me explain.
Okay.
Yeah. The way I look at it is on Saturdays, you fully expect the Buckeyes to win, regardless of who they're playing. If they're playing Indiana, if they're playing a Division II team, or if they're playing USC or Florida or Alabama, you expect an Ohio State win every single Saturday.
Right.
And so when they win, you're just like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's solid.
I expected that to happen. And then you go to Sunday.
Right.
And the Cleveland Browns play.
It's the opposite.
Yes, it's the
you
polar
do not
opposite.
expect them to win. You expect them to lose.
It does not matter who the
every
opponent is.
single week of the
It could be the 0-15 Detroit Lions, or it could be the Green Bay Packers of the Vince Lombardi days, and you know that the Browns are probably going to get beat.
Right.
And so when you have the low expectations,
and you win.
Yeah, I mean, like when you have the low
amazing.
expectations, you lose. Then you're just like, all right, that sucks, but
Right.
I kind of figured that happened. But when they win, it's like you get so pumped. It's like, all right, the Browns did not lose this week.
Right.
It's a good week.
And
but when the Buckeyes lose,
that ruins your whole year.
You're at the top and you go straight down.
That ruins most teams' title chances when they get that one loss. So
right. So I mean, you can only go up being a Browns fan. You can only go up.
Yeah.
You can't go down.
Right.
As a Buckeyes fan, you can only go down.
Okay.
So
that's a solid explanation. I agree with that. All right. So we're coming up to the last two. It's kind of a two-parter question.
Okay.
What is your favorite sports memory? We'll do both a personal one and a professional one.
Okay.
So let's do the professional one first.
Professional first? All right. I got to give you the backstory to this one or else it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Okay.
I got my license like 2 or 3 months ago. All right.
Okay.
I'm a 16-year-old kid, just got my license. And here in Belleville, where I live, we have the World's Fair, we call it, where little tiny Belleville gets filled with like 5,000 plus people. You can't even walk down the street because the fair is just packed. And my dad's buddy used to own a plot of land here, and he told us, me and my friend, he said, hey, if you guys just want to work parking cars, he's like, you can keep whatever money you make.
Right.
And we're like, all right, sweet, yeah, we'll do that. And so we sat there and we parked cars for a while, and I think we walked out with a little bit over $100 each, like $120, something like that.
Not bad for a 16-year-old.
Right, yeah. At the time, it's a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah.
And the first thing we do, this is on a Saturday, we look at each other and we go, want to go to the Browns game tomorrow?
Okay.
And we're like, hell yeah. I'm 16 years old, so I get in the car.
Yeah.
And I drive up to Cleveland after having my license for like 2 months, and I'm scared because driving
big
from
city traffic,
city traffic, I didn't even really know exactly how to get there.
Right.
And so we go up to the big city and we scalp some tickets off this guy. We end up getting upper level end zone seats.
Okay.
And I think it's week 2.
Yep, week 2.
It's I think it's week 2.
Okay.
And we're playing the Bengals.
Okay.
And it's Derek Anderson's first start in 2007.
So that 2007 year, that 10-6 year.
Yeah, we just traded Charlie Fry to Seattle after a terrible start in game 1. And it was so much fun because it was the game. The final score ended up being 52-48.
So that big shootout game.
Yes. We're up there, and the people around us were complete strangers when we got there, but they were our best friends when we left.
Right.
Like, you're high-fiving, you're hugging these complete strangers. Dude, 52 points from a Browns offense. Like,
that's probably the most we put out. That's more than we put up in whole years sometimes. So
it was so much fun to be up there, and every time I think about going to a Browns game, I try to chase that high. Like, I'm hoping that it's going to be that much fun again. And it's failed to live up to that excitement every time, but I will always continue to go and try to chase that. It's kind of like an addiction.
Yeah.
And that started it there.
I remember that game. I was up with my dad. We were at his side of the family's reunion up in Cleveland also. And I remember listening to it on the radio with him on the way home, and that was exciting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great game to listen to. All right, so let's go favorite personal sports memory.
All right,
so this could be like a pickup game of basketball, pickup football, 2-hand tap football. This could be anything like that. Madden. Well, we can go Madden or 2K if you want to throw that in there. What's your favorite personal memory?
My favorite personal, there's a couple I could choose from. But I think what it comes down to is in high school.
Okay. We
had intramurals. And intramurals, me and some friends were like, yeah, we're going to do this. It's basketball.
Okay.
And so we go through this basketball tournament, and this whole summer we spent up at our friend Nate Lane's house is the name. He had his own like little basketball court, and we'd spend hours up there every day just playing ball. And so we all enter this tournament, and like we're in separate teams. You know, I had my group of friends,
right.
Nate and them had their group of friends. And so we enter. And we go through the tournament pretty easy.
Okay.
And we actually made it to the championship.
All right.
And what we didn't know at the time, but the championship game was going to be played in front of the whole school.
Really?
Yeah. And when you go to a little high school, it's kind of a big deal. You know, like we only had, I think I only graduated with like 130 people in my class just to get people.
That same amount we had. So
it's a pretty big deal to have 9th through 12th grade there watching you play basketball. And it ends up, we go up against Nate Lane and his team in the championship. So the people we've been balling with all summer.
So you guys all know each other.
Yeah, we know each other's game. And, we always give each other that crap talk, before the games and the tournament and everything. Like, oh, we're going to do better than you, blah, blah, blah. But so here it comes down to the championship. Okay. And we just went out, and we ended up winning. My friend Rose hit a couple clutch free throws at the end to put the nail in the coffin. I ended up blocking Travis Hishong up against the backboard, who now plays for the Yankees, which is a different sport, but I still get bragging rights there. And
you blocked a professional athlete.
Yeah, I can say that. And it was a lot of fun, and just to sit there and win the championship in front of the whole school was probably one of my biggest personal athletic
That's got to be a pretty good feeling.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the last part of that question. Worst for each of those, personal and professional. I mean, you could say LeBron leaving, but I think that's too easy.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously with my favorite two, I could have easily said championship.
But I think
it's kind of excluded just because that's too easy.
Right.
And LeBron leaving is probably too easy for my worst personal as well, or professional.
So, got lots of Browns losses in there.
Lots of Browns losses.
Got some very bad Cavs seasons. So what's your worst?
See, I can live with a bad season. Like when the Cavs had their bad seasons once LeBron left. Yeah, it was disappointing, but it was, I mean, it wasn't anything like watching the Browns on Sunday lose on a blocked field goal, something like that.
Which kick six.
Right, yeah. So I could go kick six. But I think the toughest thing professional sports-wise was also that 2007 year. The Browns had an awesome year. They go 10-6. Derek Anderson, Braylon Edwards, Pro Bowlers. And I was like, all right, the Browns finally turned around. We're finally a legit team, playoffs. And Week 17 comes along, and the Indianapolis Colts against Tennessee Titans. If the Colts win, the Browns are in the playoffs. If the Colts lose, then the Titans are in the playoffs. I think it was. Yep. And, of course, Peyton Manning and the Colts clinched their playoff spot a couple weeks ago. So they rest their starters. And
the Titans absolutely.
Titans killed them. And so the Browns, after a 10-6 season, still don't make the playoffs. Right. And that was so disappointing and so hard. And so that's the top one on my head right now. That when I have to think about it on a spot like this, that's the one that comes to my mind.
Okay. All right. Personal? You got anything that keeps you up at night when you lay in bed? You got any terrible, terrible sports memories that you just kind of lose sleep over? Anything like that?
All right. For my worst personal, this one's tough, but I think it comes down to when I was in high school, I only played high school football for 2 years. And that was 8th and 9th grade, so it wasn't even high school for both years. But freshman year, I was a receiver, and at Clear Fork when I was in school, we were definitely a running team. Like we'd pass the ball maybe 3 times a game. Okay. Like we were hardcore, like smash mouth football, just slam it down your throat.
Right.
And so as a receiver, basically you're an extended offensive lineman. You're out on the corners just blocking.
Right.
And even then, I still didn't get playing time. I was probably like the number 5 or 6 receiver.
Pretty low on that depth chart.
Yeah. So I rarely saw the field. And one game, we're down on like the 5-yard line, and the coach looks at me and goes, "Hey, you're in." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm in? Like, are you joking?"
No, you got the wrong person. He's over there.
And so I go in, and we get the play, and it's a pass play, and I'm like, "Oh my God, here's my moment! It's
freaking
right
out.
Here. This is my time." And so I'm there. I line up, and I see the receiver, or I see the corner. He's kind of playing back on me. And I'm like, what's he playing back for?
We're on the 5-yard line. Yeah. You got to jam him.
And my route was a 5-yard slant.
Okay.
And I went out 5 yards, and I was supposed to cut towards the goalpost. I was out on the right hash, if that helps you visualize it. I was out on the right hash, and I was supposed to go up 5 yards, cut towards the goalpost. I seen that corner playing off, so I go, I'm turning this into a 3-yard slant. And so the ball snapped. I hit that 3-yard slant. I'm wide open in the end zone. This is my moment. I'm ready. Yeah. I look at the quarterback. He looks at me.
Yeah, you guys make that eye contact.
Yeah. And then he looks the other way. And he looks at that 5'6" receiver on the other side in double coverage and goes, "I'm going to you." And he throws it right into that double coverage, incomplete. And then the coach takes me out the next play.
Damn.
And I never got my moment to shine. Never scored a touchdown. And still to this day.
Biggest regret?
It hurts. It hurts. Yeah. I mean, that was my moment, and it got taken away from me.
That is very sad. I feel bad. I feel bad for bringing that up. That deep repressed memory.
Now I'm mad at you.
All right. So those were our questions this week. I think Adam may ask me some of these questions, maybe a couple new ones.
Yeah, because it's a good chance for you guys to try to get to know us.
Right.
Better,
bring out our personalities more.
Right.
We just seems like we just rattle off a bunch of stats and maybe our personalities aren't fleshed out yet. So maybe that will help you guys get to know us a little bit better. So that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. We also have that fantasy football podcast we recorded today also. I think we're going to be putting that up later in the week, maybe on a Tuesday or Wednesday. You guys can check us out on iTunes or Podomatic. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All the handles are at BA Sports Podcast. So again, thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, later.